What's up, everybody, and welcome to another edition of High Mythology.
Hi.
Hi. The show where we get higher than the waves in a hurricane and tell you guys silly stories from mythology and folklore.
Can we shoot fireworks off in this hurricane? How many people have shot fireworks in a hurricane? How does that look?
That's an odd question, but it's something a younger me would be very interested in trying. We're going to go stop the hurricane with fireworks.
That'd be interesting.
Because America...
Could be a game changer.
Yeah, I think that would be the good excuse.
I'm pretty sure we just set everything on fire, too.
Yeah,
but that's okay.
No, it's a fire hurricane. It's so much worse.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, tonight we're going to be jumping into part two of the Little Mermaid. Little Mermaidy. Floating in the sea. Bubble, bubble, bubble.
Yep.
From Hans Christian Andersen. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Almost forgot that part. Got so caught up on my rambling. Yeah. So without further ado, Kimbo, why don't you go ahead and kick it back off?
Thank you. All right, so if you don't remember, we were actually heading to the Sea Witch.
Heading to the Sea Witch.
Sea Witch. Okay, so for a long distance, the road laid across a stretch of warm, bubbling mire. The witch calls it Turf Moor. Beyond this was the witch's house, which stood at the center of a strange forest, where all the trees and flowers were, forgive me if I'm murdering this word, pulpy? They're half animals and half plants.
Ouch, that sucks.
And my screen just went blank.
I'm a deer who's also made of grass. I eat myself daily. I mean, like, it doesn't matter, like, if it's a carnivore or an omnivore at that point. Like, every creature is going to be eating other creatures.
Carnivore. Yeah. Like a Venus flytrap.
Everything's just eating each other.
They look like serpents with 100 heads growing out of the ground. The branches were long, slimy arms with fingers like flexible worms, moving limb after limb from the root to the top. All that could be reached in the sea they seized upon and held fast so that it never escaped from their clutches. The little mermaid was so alarmed at what she saw that she stood still and her heart beat with fear. She came very near turning back, but she thought of the prince and of the human soul for which she longed, and her courage returned. She fastened her long, flowing hair round her head so that the polyp should not lay hold of it. She crossed her hands on her bosom and then darted forward as a fish should.
That way they don't cop a feel.
Don't cop a feel, man.
Yeah. Block my breast, this is from you.
Don't touch. And then darted forward as a fish shoots through the water. Between the supple arms and the fingers of the ugly poultry, which were stretched out on each side of her, she saw that they all held in their grasp something that they had seized with their numerous little arms, which were as strong as iron bands. Tightly grasped in their clinging arms were white skeletons of human beings who had perished at sea and had sunk down to the deep waters. Skeletons of land animals and oars, rudders, and chests from ships. There was even a little mermaid whom they had caught and strangled. And this
under the sea.
And this seemed to be the most shocking of all to the little princess.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, it's pretty burly.
Yeah, it's very grim.
The corpse pits. Oh, you son of a bitch.
She now came to a space of marshy ground in the wood. Wait, I think this was actually done by Hans, right?
Yep.
Never mind.
Where is it?
Failure, Kim. Failure. You're losing sight.
I'll let you have that one, though. It's going to let it slide.
Thank you. You were, but then you just took hold.
Yeah, I'll let you catch up with that mistake on your own.
She now came to a space of marshy ground in the woods,
So
where
marshy.
large, fat water snakes were rolling in the mire and showing their ugly, drab-colored bellies.
Look at my drab-colored belly, y'all.
In the midst of this spot stood a house built of bones and shipwrecked human beings. And there sat the sea witch, allowing a toad to eat from her mouth, just as people sometimes feed a canary with a piece of sugar. That's interesting as well. She called the ugly water snakes her little chickens and allowed them to crawl all over her bosom.
Crawl all over me, my little chickens.
The sea witch, not even looking at the Little Mermaid, called out,
I know what you want. It's very stupid of you, but you shall have your way, though it will bring you sorrow, my pretty princess. You want to get rid of your fish's tail and have two supports instead. Little dangly human legs just dangling down below your torso.
do you want a dangle hopper in the
Yeah.
I can give you one of those, too.
Do you want junk, too? That's going to cost you extra if you want genitals. Everyone knows genitals are $5 extra. So that young prince may fall in love with you. Yeah, you're definitely going to want to spring for the genitals. So that you may have an immortal soul, because you're worried about your soul and stuff, even though we're like fish and we can swim around here. Look at my serpent's drab-colored belly.
Okay. And then
look at my belly, y'all.
And then the witch laughed so loud and so disgustingly that the toads and the snakes fell to the ground and lay there wriggling. The Little Mermaid crept closer, and the sea witch continued to say,
You're just in time for after sunrise tomorrow. I would not have been able to help you until next year. You're like the last one to meet my quota for the year, and then I go down to Cancun. I will prepare you a potion with which you must swim to land tomorrow before sunrise. One of the sun things. Seat yourself there and drink it. Your tail will then disappear and morph into what men call legs. You'll feel a great pain as if a sword were pressing through you. But all that see you will say that you are the prettiest little human they ever saw. You will still have the same floating gracefulness of movement, and no dancer will ever tread so lightly. However, every step you take will be as if you were treading upon sharp knives, and feel as if the blood was flowing. If you will bear all this, then I will help you. That's my only condition.
and blood actually does flow from our feet after a while. It's kind of crazy. The little princess said in a trembling voice as she thought of the prince and the immortal soul.
Yes, I will.
The sea witch says,
But think again. For once you change into a human, you could never be a mermaid again. You'll be stuck with those human danglers forever. You will never return through the water to your sisters or to your father's palace. And if you do not win the love of the prince, so that he is willing to forget his father and mother for your sake, which is a very weird request.
'Tis true. What else?
And to love you with his whole soul, and allow the priest to join your hands so that you may be man and wife. Basically, I could have just summed that up by saying if you were going to get married to him, then you will never have an immortal soul. The morning after he marries another, your heart will break and you will have to become foam on the crest of the waves. Just wave foam. Floating in the sea.
The Little Mermaid said.
I'll do it.
And she became pale as death.
The
The sea witch continued to say,
Now let's talk about my payment. I don't give anything away for free. Don't worry. It's not a trifle that I ask. You have the sweetest voice of any who dwell here in the depths of the sea. I love that fucking voice.
voice of a sea angel.
It's the voice of a sea angel. The voice of a flounder.
You sound like a blue whale.
You sound like a blue whale. Yeah, that's right. We talked to it. Check out my song. You sound like a luxurious sea cow. But your voice is what you must give me. The best thing you possess, aside from those sexy new legs I'm gonna give you, for the price of my costly potion, which must be mixed with my own blood, so that it may be as sharp as a two-edged sword. I hope you already have hepatitis, because if not, you're gonna totally have that too.
And C.
Hepatitis C.
The Little Mermaid said,
But if you take away my voice, what is left to me?
The Sea Witch says,
Your beautiful form, honey. Have you seen your tits? I mean, they're like gargantuan. Your graceful walk and your expressive eyes, too, those will help. Surely with those you can enchant your prince. Well, have you lost your courage? Put out your little tongue, that I may cut it off as my payment. Fucking A. Then you shall have your powerful potion, and I shall have your tongue.
The Little Mermaid said,
Okay.
Well, I guess when you cut out the tongue, that's really the voice, right? Not really
Okay.
the vocals.
Oh,
She could still gurgle. Then the witch placed her cauldron on the fire and prepared the magic potion. The Sea Witch said,
Cleanliness is next to godliness, bitch.
As she scoured the vessel with snakes, which she had tied together in a large knot. Then she pricked herself in the breast and let the black blood drop into the cauldron. The steam that rose twisted itself into such horrible shapes that no one could look at them without fear. Every moment the witch threw a new ingredient into the vessel, and when it began to boil, the sound was like a weeping of a crocodile. When at last the magic potion, I don't know.
I'm a sad crocodile.
How does a giraffe sound when it cries?
I guess crocodiles would be more tropical. I was thinking an alligator would probably have a Cajun accent. It's a crocodile.
When at last the magic potion was ready, it looked like the clearest of water. The Sea Witch said,
I'm going to put this in a Fiji bottle for you.
Then she cut off the mermaid's tongue so that she would never again speak or sing. The Sea Witch continued to say,
If the polypi should seize you, and as you return through the wood, throw over them a few drops of the potion, and the fingers will be torn into like 1,000 pieces. It's a really cool trick I have for people who get too handsy.
But the Little Mermaid had no occasion to do this, for the polypes sprang back in terror when they caught sight of the glittering potion, which shone in her hand like a twinkling star. So she passed quickly through the woods and the marsh and between the rushing whirlpools. She saw in her father's palace the torches in the ballroom were extinguished,
Balls
and
out.
that all within were asleep. But she did not venture to go into them, for now that she was mute and going to leave them forever, she felt as if her heart would break. She stole into the garden, took a flower from the flower bed of each of her sisters, kissed her hand towards the palace 1,000 times, and then rose up through the dark blue waters. The sun had not risen when she had came into sight of the prince's palace and approached the beautiful marble steps. But the moon shone clear and bright. Then the little mermaid drank the magic potion, and it seemed as if 2-edged swords went through her delicate body. She fell into a swoon and lay like one dead. When the sun rose to shone over the sea, she recovered and felt a sharp pain. But before her stood a handsome young prince.
Hottie.
Handsome young prince. He fixed his coal-black eyes upon her so earnestly that she cast down her own, and then became aware that her fish's tail was gone, and that she had a pretty pair of white legs and tiny feet.
Look at those tiny feet.
As any little maiden could have. But she had no clothes, so she wrapped herself in her long, thick hair, and the prince asked her who she was and whence she came. She looked at him mildly and sorrowfully with her deep blue eyes, but could not speak. He took her by the hand and led her to the palace. Every step she took was as the witch had said it would be. She felt as if she were treading upon points of needles or sharp knives.
Kiss the girl.
She bore it willingly, however, and moved at the prince's side as lightly as a bubble, so that he and all who saw her wondered at her graceful swaying movements.
Look how graceful she is.
She was very soon arrayed in costly robes of silk and muslin, and was the most beautiful creature in the palace. But she was mute and could neither speak nor sing.
But she was mute.
And when I say mute, I've reworded it because all of it's dumb.
Yeah, that's old school. She was deaf and dumb.
She was just dumb. She was dumb and could neither speak nor sing. I was like,
I wish she tried to talk without the tongue. That would make it better.
Reminds me of the South Park.
What was that? Did you say you're a mermaid from the ocean?
Beautiful female slaves dressed in silk and gold
Damn.
stepped forward and sang before the prince and his royal parents. One sang better than all the others, and the prince clapped his hands and smiled at her. This was a great sorrow to the little mermaid, for she knew how much more sweetly she herself once could sing. And she thought,
Oh my God. Oh, if I only knew that I had given away my voice just to be with him.
The slaves next performed some pretty fairy-like dances to the sounds of beautiful music. And then the little mermaid raised her lovely white arms, stood on the tips of her toes, and glided over the floor and danced as if no one had been able to dance. At each movement, her beauty was more revealing, and her expressive eyes appealed more directly to the heart than the songs of the slaves. Wow. Everyone was enchanted, especially the prince, who called her his little fondling. She danced again quite readily. I know, he's weird.
You are my little fondling. I want to... Oh, Jesus.
To please him... Though each time her foot touched the floor, it seemed as if she trod on sharp knives. The prince said she should remain with him always, and she was given permission to sleep at his door on a velvet cushion like a dog.
So you've got a bedroom for me? No, sleep here in front of my door on this bed.
He had a page dress made for her, so she might accompany him on horseback. They rode together through the sweet scented woods, where the green burrows touched through their shoulders. Sorry. Sorry. And the little bird sang among the fresh leaves. She climbed with him to the tops of high mountains, and although her tender feet bled so that even her steps were marked, she only smiled and followed him till they could see the clouds beneath them like a flock of birds flying to distant lands. While at the prince's palace, and when all the household were asleep, she would go and sit on the broad marble steps, for it eased her burning feet to bathe them in the cold sea water. It was then that she thought that all those below the deep. She thought of all those below the deep. Once during the night, her sisters came up arm in arm, singing sorrowfully as they floated on the water. She beckoned to them, and they recognized her and told her how she had grieved them. And after that, they came to the same place every night. Once she saw in the distance her old grandmother, who had not been to the surface to the sea in many years.
What?
And the old sea king, her father, with his crown on his head. They stretched out their hands towards her, but did not venture so near to the land as her sisters had.
Look, sorry. I thought I had another daughter.
As the days passed, she loved the prince more dearly, and he loved her as one would love a little child.
Poor dog, they fucking keep locked outside the room. As one would love a little child. You fucking sick fuck.
Who leaves their kid outside the door on a velvet cushion? The thought never came to him.
I know. I only can afford burlap.
The thought never came to him to make her his wife. Yet, unless he married her, she could not receive an immortal soul. And on the morning after his marriage with another, she would dissolve into the foam of the sea. The little mermaid wanted to ask the prince if he did not love her more than all of them. But all she could do was use her eyes to express it when he took her in his arms and kissed her fair forehead.
I like to imagine her just blinking Morse code at him.
I mean, that would be useful, right?
Blink, 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 blink.
Teach her how to write.
Actually, that's a good point. She could very easily still communicate if anyone was willing to teach her how to write. It's somehow in this time, it's less outrageous for a fish to become a human than it is for a woman to know how to write.
So true.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. A mermaid becoming a princess, whole kingdom under the sea, that I believe. Now, a woman that knows the alphabet, I have never.
I mean, they made that pretty clear in Beauty and the Beast, right?
I know, they kicked Belle out of town because she could read.
Knew how to follow a fucking plan.
Yeah.
The prince said,
Yes, you are dear to me, for you have the best heart, and you are the most devoted to me. You are like the young maiden whom I once saw, but whom I shall never meet again. Sorrow. I was in a shipwreck, and the waves cast me ashore near a holy temple, where several young maidens performed medical services on me. Damn, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Including a blowjob. It was nice. It was the first ever recorded blowjob. The youngest of them found me on the shore and saved my life. I only saw her twice, and she is the only one in the world who I could love. But you are like her, and have almost driven her image from my mind. She belongs to the holy temple, and good fortune has sent you to me in her stead. We will never part.
The Little Mermaid thought,
he doesn't know that I'm the one who saved his life. I carried him over the sea to the woods where the temple stands. I sat beneath the foam, watched till the humans came to help him. I saw the pretty maiden that he loves better than me.
The Little Mermaid sighed deeply, but she could not weep. She continues to think.
He says the maiden belongs to the holy temple, therefore should never return to the world. They will never meet again. I am by his side and see him every day. I will take care of him and love him and give up my life for his sake. Sadly, I cannot do that blowjob thing he likes because I do not have a tongue.
It's probably better. Very soon, it was said. It was said that the prince was to marry and that the beautiful daughter of a neighboring king would be his wife. For a fine ship was being fitted out. Although the prince gave out that he intended merely to pay a visit to the king, it was generally supposed that he went to court the princess.
Courting.
A great company were to go with him, and the little mermaid smiled and shook her head. She knew the prince's thoughts better than any of them. The prince says to her,
I must travel to see this neighboring princess and party super hard. My parents desire it, but I will not oblige them and bring her back as my wife. I cannot love her, because she is not like the beautiful maiden in the temple, whom you resemble. If I were forced to choose a bride, I would choose you, my wife, fondling with those expressive eyes.
Really, my wife?
Oh, I would choose you, my mute fondling. Oh, wow, yeah. My dumb fondler.
Yeah.
With those expressive eyes that you have.
Then he kissed her rosy mouth and played with her long wavy hair.
Jesus.
And laid his head on her heart.
Boobs.
He laid his head on her heart while she dreamed of human happiness and an immortal soul. On the ship, the prince asked her,
Are you not afraid of the sea?
as they stood on the deck of the noble ship, which was carrying them to the country of the neighboring king. You're digging it too far, buddy. Then he told her of storm and of calm, of strange fishes of the deep beneath them, and what the divers had seen there. She smiled at his descriptions, for she knew better than anyone what wonders were at the bottom of the sea.
Under the sea.
In the moonlit night, when all on board were asleep except for the man at the helm, she sat on the deck, gazing out through the clear water. She thought she could distinguish her father's castle, and upon it her aged grandmother, with her silver crown on her head, looking through the rushing tides at the keel of the vessel. Then her sisters came up on the waves and gazed at her mournfully. Wringing their white hands, she beckoned to them and smiled and wanted to tell them how happy and well off she was. But the cabin boy approached, and when her sisters dived down, he thought he saw... the only thing he thought he saw was the foam of the sea. Foam.
Oh, look at that sea foam.
Wow. The next morning, the ship sailed into the harbor of a beautiful town belonging to the king whom the prince was going to visit. The church bells were ringing, and from the high towers sounded a flourish of trumpets. Dun, 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 dun. Sorry, I watched a lot of shit. Soldiers with flying colors and glittering bayonets lined the roads.
Look at my sparkly bayonet, y'all.
I know, it's bejeweled.
It's
Bedazzled.
Yeah, I bedazzled the shit out of this bayonet.
Lined the roads through which they passed. Every day was a festival, balls and entertainment.
Check out these balls and that entertainment.
Following one after the other. But the princess had not yet appeared. People said that she had been brought up and educated in a religious house, where she was learning every royal virtue.
She learned all the virtues.
At last she came, and then the little mermaid, who was anxious to see whether she was really beautiful, was obliged to admit that she had never seen a more perfect vision of beauty. Her skin was delicately fair, and beneath her long dark eyelashes, her laughing blue eyes shone with truth and purity. The prince said to the neighboring princess,
"Oh, I am so happy. My hopes and dreams are now fulfilled. Oh, no. It was you who saved my life when I lay as if I died on the beach."
And he folded his blushing bride into his arms like an origami.
That doesn't sound comfortable, and it sounds not proper for the scenario they're at.
Then the prince turns to the little mermaid and says,
"You see how her legs go behind her head like that? Oh, I am so happy. My hopes and dreams are now fulfilled. You will rejoice in my happiness, for your devotion to me is great and sincere."
The little mermaid kissed his hand and felt as if her heart were already broken. His wedding morning would bring the death to her, and she would change into the foam of the sea.
Aww.
Wow. All of the church bells rang, and the heralds rode through the towns proclaiming the betrothal.
Proclaim!
Perfumed oil was burnt in costly silver lamps on every altar, and the priest waved the censers. While the bride and the bridegroom joined their hands and received the blessing of the bishop. The little mermaid, dressed in silk and gold, held up the bride's train, but her ears heard nothing of the festive music, and her eyes did not see the holy ceremony. She thought of the night of death that was coming for her, and all that she had lost in the world.
Death comes for me tomorrow.
On the same evening, the bride and bridegroom went on board the ship. Cannons were roaring, flags were waving, and in the center of the ship was a costly tent of purple and gold and had been erected.
Oh!
It contained elegant sleeping couches for the bridal pair during the night.
Ah, that's not the only thing getting erected.
That's true. The ship, under a favorable wind, with swelling sails, glided away smoothly and lightly over the calm sea. When it grew dark, a number of colored lamps were lighted, and the sailors danced merrily on the deck. The little mermaid could not help thinking of her first rising out of the sea, when she had seen some similar joyful festivities. So she too joined in the dance, poised herself in the air as a swallow when it pursues its prey, and all present cheered her wonderingly.
That's like a swallow when it swoops in on its prey. Very specific, Bill.
I know, for real. She had never danced so gracefully before.
Call this the swooping swallow.
Her tender feet felt as if cuts with sharp knives, but she cared not for the pain. The sharper the pain had pierced her heart. A sharper pain had pierced her heart. Aw.
Well, I mean, technically, right? She just has to get married. I mean, at this point, if I know I'm dying the next day, I'm probably just going to try to shack up with one of the sailors.
I mean, at this point.
If it's going to save my life, yeah.
She has a higher chance of doing it if she's a virgin.
We'll settle divorce later.
God likes virgins.
Jesus does too.
She knew that this was the last evening she would ever see the prince for whom she had forsaken her kindred and her home.
I forsaken my kindred.
She had given up her beautiful voice and suffered unheard of pain daily for him, while he knew nothing of it. That fucking arrogant asshole. Doesn't even ask.
Doesn't even care.
This was the last evening that she would breathe the same air with him, or gaze on the starry sky, or at the deep sea. An eternal night without a thought or a dream awaited her. She had no soul, and could now never win one. All was joy and merry on the ship, until long after midnight. She smiled and danced with the rest, while the thought of death was in her heart. The prince kissed his beautiful bride, and she played with his raven hair till they went arm in arm to the rest in the magnificent tent.
Yep, made a lot of rest going down in that tent.
Then all became still on board in the ship, and only the pilot who stood at the helm was awake. The little mermaid leaned her white arms on the edge of the vessel and looked towards the east for the first blush of morning, for the first ray of the dawn which would be her death.
Kiss the girl.
She saw her sisters rising out of the flood. They were as pale as she, and their beautiful hair no longer waved in the wind, for it had been cut off. They told her,
"We have given our hair to the sea witch to help obtain help for you and stuff, so that you can not die tonight. She gave us a knife, and it's super sharp, and so before sunrise, you gotta plunge it into the heart of the prince and kill him and let the warm blood just rain all over your feet, and they'll grow together again into a fish's tail." Super simple, right? "And you will once more be a mermaid, and you can return to us and live out your 500 years before you change into the salty sea foam." Salty.
It's better than doing what you're doing.
Yeah. "Quickly, either he or yourself must die before sunrise. So I totally suggest kill that cheating bitch,
For real.
No one's gonna hesitate if you stab her too a couple times. Also, take her hair, because we need wigs. Our old grandmother mourns for you, that her white hair is falling out, and ours fell under the sea witch. Scissors. Kill me."
I'm sorry.
"Kill the prince and come home. Hurry up. Do you not see the first red streaks in the sky? In a few minutes it'll be sun up, and you'll totally be dead."
Then they sighed deeply and mournfully and sank beneath the waves. The little mermaid drew back the crimson curtains of the tent, which I totally thought it was a purple tent I mentioned.
Yeah.
So it's got crimson curtains.
What did they do in there?
Jesus. Her time of the month, they just got that real bad. Jesus. Sorry.
There's so much blood. It's like a murder scene in here.
What if they took my idea for fucking...
Blood orgy?
No. Sweatshop.
Oh, Jesus, Kim. Someone put a ghost pepper in someone else's ass. And that was what happened in that
Guaranteed to lose 5 pounds.
Guaranteed to turn your tent crimson, if you know what I mean.
It will.
It will no longer be erect.
You don't have to worry, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
There's a doctor on hand. It's not bad. Yeah. It's really a vet technician.
It's a vet. It's a vet. Because you got to be an animal to stick a chili pepper up your ass.
I mean, you can drink milk from in there. Why not?
Butt chug some milk.
You can butt chug milk. You can eat a fucking ghost pepper through there.
Oh, God.
I bet you absorb more spiciness.
Oh, yeah. And back to the story at hand. Crimson Tint. Does
that mean you shit fire for a week?
Yes. No, that means you got to go to a hospital immediately. Your insides are melting.
That's a great idea, guys. Let me know if you want to endorse it.
Don't endorse that idea.
You can write Howley Boys with it later.
Jesus. Do not attach us to the chili pepper in the ass. Unless it goes viral.
I lost my place.
Crimson Tint.
Oh, yeah. We're making fun of the tent. Sorry.
Making fun of the tent. Call that pitching a tent.
She pulled back the crimson curtain of the tent and beheld the fair bride, whose head was resting on the prince's breast. She bent down and kissed his noble brow, and then looked at the sky, on which the rosy dawn grew brighter and brighter. She glanced at the sharp knife, and again fixed her eyes on the prince, who whispered the name of his bride in his dreams. She was in his thoughts, and the knife trembled in the hands of the little mermaid.
Sandra.
But she flung it far from her into the waves, and the water turned red where it fell, and the drops that spurted up like blood. She cast one more lingering, half-fainting glance at the prince, and then threw herself from the ship into the sea, and felt her body dissolving into foam.
Under the sea.
The sun rose above the waves, and his warm rays fell upon the cold foam of the little mermaid, who did not feel as if she were dying. She thought the bright sun, the hundreds of transparent, beautiful creatures floating all around her, and she could see through them the white sails of the ship and the red clouds of the sky. Their speech was melodious.
Melodious!
But could not be heard by mortal ears, just as their bodies could not be seen by mortal eyes. The little mermaid perceived that she had a body like theirs, and that she continued to rise higher and higher out of the foam. The little mermaid asked, "Where am I?" And her voice sounded eternal.
Where am I?
Ethereal, I guess. Like the voices of those who were with her. No earthly music could imitate it. One of them answered, "You are among the daughters of the air. A mermaid does not have an immortal soul, nor can she obtain one unless she wins the love of a human. On the will of another hangs her eternal destiny. But the daughters of the air, although we do not possess an immortal soul, can by their good deeds procure one for ourselves. We carry the perfume of the flowers to spread health and restoration. After we've striven for 300 years to do all the good in our power, we receive an immortal soul and take place in the happiness of mankind. You, poor little mermaid, have tried with your whole heart to do as we are doing. You have suffered and endured and raised yourself to the spirit world for your good deeds. Now, by striving for 300 years, in the same way, you may obtain a mortal soul." The little mermaid lifted her glorified eyes towards the sun, and for the first time felt them filling with tears. On the ship in which she had left the prince, there was life and noise. She saw him and his beautiful bride searching for her. Sorrowfully they gazed at the pearly foam, as if they knew that she had thrown herself into the waves. Unseen, she kissed the forehead of the bride and fanned the prince, and then mounted with the other children of the air to a rosy cloud that floated above. The Little Mermaid said,
"After 300 years, we will float into the kingdom of heaven."
One of her companions whispered to her, saying,
"And we may get there even sooner. Unseen, we can enter the houses of men." Jesus, where there are children, and for every day of which we find a good child, that is the joy of his parents and deserves their love. Our time of probation is shortened. We're all on probation.
Yep.
The child does not know when we fly through the room. It's just getting creepy.
It is.
That we smile with joy at his good conduct, for we can count 1 year less for our 300 years. But when we see a naughty or a wicked child, we shed tears of sorrow, and for every tear, a day is added to our time of trial.
So don't
And
cry.
we beat them, too, I presume.
No, they don't do shit.
We don't do shit, we just watch.
All right, that's it. The end.
The end. Da,
She
da,
dies.
da.
But becomes something more.
She becomes something more.
And as I recall, she had, 500 years going just to turn into sea foam. Now she's only got 300.
She's only got 300. She's losing 200 years.
That's fucking dope. She already lost 2. She found 2 good kids.
She found 2 good kids. 2 bad kids. And let's not all forget that she creeped on her ex and his wife while they were both naked in their bed and almost murdered them.
Yeah.
The moral of the story is...
This shit happens in real life. Lock your door.
Lock your door. That's the moral of the story. Lock your door at night, because you never know when your ex is viciously standing over you with a dagger.
And learn to write.
Learn to write and read.
If you can.
A woman that can read. What is this, high fantasy?
Go get your ghost peppers.
Go get your ghost peppers. Don't
Stick
do
'em in
that.
your
Don't
butthole.
keister ghost peppers. It's not good.
I mean, there are some people that do it for fun already.
No, nobody does that for fun.
Yeah, there is.
I'm telling you, Kim.
I'm sure there's somebody.
It'll kill you.
Somebody's that dumb.
It'll kill you.
What was it? That one lady put fucking pop rocks in her hoo-ha.
Well, yeah,
She
but
had to
that's
go to
just
the
good.
hospital.
That's just good fun.
No, she had to go to the hospital. It was bad. You can't put that kind of stuff in
No,
your
you
hoo-ha.
can't. It's supposed to be gushers.
As long as you suck it. Well, is it supposed to dissolve in there?
No, someone's got to eat them, but
It's got to go in your bunghole.
it's got to go in your bung. Everyone knows it's gushers in your bunghole. Come on.
That's how you eat gushers.
That's how
right?
you eat gushers, right? Out of a butthole. That's why they're called gushers.
Fucking gross.
Yep. On that note, everybody, we're going to call it a night. I hope you folks enjoyed this. Little Mermaid, Hans Christian Andersen, getting handsy.
Some Danish.
Yeah, good fun. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow us. We've just kicked out. It's going to be episode 101, I believe. So we've just crossed the 100 threshold.
Heyo.
Yeah, moving into the real world now.
Woo.
Woo.
I got more stories to go.
Tons more stories. So
Can't
yeah,
wait.
tune in the
like
future.
3 more.
We're going to be popping back to some Norse tales. I know everybody loves some Norse. We're going to be doing some Greek mythology. Getting kind of back to our roots with some of the old school mythies.
Then I got Slavic and Spanish.
Yeah, we've got a
Boom.
book on Sumerian.
I got shit going on, man.
So we're trying to do some cool stuff. So be sure to tune in, catch us anywhere. Be sure to follow us, share us with your friends. We're all word of mouth. We don't do any proper advertising. So if you see someone looking for a podcast, be like, hey, fucker.
Got you.
Got you. High mythology.
Tell them they'll send you a sticker.
Yeah, we'll send you a sticker.
I'll go get some more stickers.
Yeah, I'm going to just get
running
smiley
out of
faces
stickers.
for all the people who tell their friends and stormy clouds for the people who don't.
I won't know. what that is.
How will you know?
I'm just going to give everyone a storm cloud. until they
Everyone gets
mention
a
it.
stormy cloud, guys. Yeah.
Except for the few.
Except for a few. Now, we love you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to our first 101 episodes. And hope you continue listening and continue liking. Find us on Twitter. That's probably the best place to reach us. If you wanna harass us, look for us on Twitter at HowleyBoys. HAOLE_BOYS.
We do a lot of shit. It's not just this.
Stuff. Yeah. But let us know if you have any ideas. If you want to hear any particular stories, shout it out.
Yeah.
On the internet.
We'll
Just
find
be like,
it.
hey, fuckers.
Facebook, Twitter.
Do it. Yeah.
I'll get your message.
I'll get you. I got you, dog. I got you.
I'll get your story in the lineup.
I got you.
Hard.
Yeah. Yeah, I was actually, I thought for a minute, going back to the story we just did, I totally thought for a minute it was going to end with her murdering them and bathing in their blood. I was like, this is going to get really dark really fast.
All she needs is a bit of shake and bake in an oven.
Yeah, that's not shake and bake. Just
deep fry them.
That'd be the worst ending to the story ever. And how did she get away from it all? Oh, she killed them and bathed in their blood. She ended up eating them because she was like, why not? I'm a fish now. And then other people caught her. So she kind of had to murder everyone on board the boat.
And then set it on fire.
And
then watched all their bodies go to the bottom.
And then the wind caught it because she didn't take down the sails and it crashed back into the kingdom. There were a lot of fatalities.
600 fish died.
600 fish.
42 men.
42 men and a pair of geese.
And one octopus.
And one octopus. And he was a drummer, damn it. He was a damn good drummer.
He seriously injured 2 arms.
He seriously injured 2 arms. He's now a septopus.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody. Bye.